Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for today's Business Leader Call. My name is Tomas Almonte, and I'm Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Bowser. Today you'll hear from speakers from the Bowser administration, including our MC and lead for the call today, Sabangale Cook, with the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. We also have Unique Morris Hughes, our Director for the Department of Employment Services, and Christy Whitfield, who's our Director for DSLBD. So without further ado, we're going to kick it over to Sabangale to get our call started. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. This is our business leader call today, and we wanted to spend some time talking about a couple of agenda items. First, is Director Unique Morris Hughes on the line? No, not yet. Okay, we first wanted to discuss and talk a little bit about the microgrant today. We're also joined here with Director Christy Whitfield. We'll also have her discuss and share some information and possibly updates through SBA as well. So the order today, we're going to talk a little bit about the microgrant and field any questions. Then we'll have Christy Whitfield, our Director of DSLBD, begin to share some updates and insight around what is happening on that end. And then when Director Unique Morris Hughes joins us, we'll have her begin to share any updates at that time. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and open up the line. Actually, I will start by sharing that right now the micro grant is still open and it does close tomorrow at 6 p.m. There is information if you go to our coronavirus.dc.gov /recovery-business. You'll find all the information that you need there. There is also a complete guide with full questions in multiple languages as well. Should you have any questions, feel free to not only actually answer questions here, but you can also shoot an email to demped.grants@dc.gov as well. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and open up the line for questions. If you would like to ask a question, please press 0 so we can go ahead and field your question and we can get it on the air.
Great. Again, that is 0. So if you could please press 0, you'll be added into our question queue. We also have those joining us on our Facebook Live and Twitter. So if you would please as well, if you have questions related to these micro grants for small businesses, that's the District of Columbia Small Business Recovery Micro Grant Program, press 0, or you can ask your question on Facebook Live or on Twitter, and we'll get those questions addressed. So Zoel Stackhouse, who's Special Assistant for the Chief of Staff, will begin to call on some speakers for questions.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Our first question is going to come from Rimmel Morgan in Ward 4. Rimmel, you are on the line.
Hi, Rimmel, you're on the line.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, how you doing? So once again, I'm Rimmel Morgan. I'm the president of Georgia Avenue Business Alliance, and I represent Ward 1 and Ward 4. The question is, one, is dealing with the businesses that has licenses that need to be renewed. Is there any way that those licenses can be renewed online? Because every year they want you to go through the Clean Hands Act and all this, but with this coronavirus thing, nobody's really trying to get out to go anywhere knowing that this thing is so highly contagious. So I guess the first question is, one, would they just be able to just go online and pay for their licenses until this thing clears up and then go ahead and go through the rest of the process? Or do they have to wait for the whole entire process through this virus?
Good question, Mr. Morgan. At this time, I think you would probably be able to check the DCRA.dc.gov website. They may already have some guidance to help support businesses who are trying to actively pay for their licenses and such. So I think there may be some further guidance on that site. I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I will say please go to the DCRA.dc.gov website. I'm sure there's some additional guidance to support businesses who may have some questions about that.
All right, our next question is Brandon Declet from Ward 3. Brandon, you are live.
Hi, Mr. Declet.
Yes, thank you very much for taking the time with business leaders here in D.C. Quick question. Once the applications are submitted for the micro grant program, how long do you expect until decisions?
Our hope is to get those out early April.
All right, our next question is going to be Lauren in Ward 2. Lauren, you are live.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi. So, yes, thank you for having this. I work for a nonprofit organization, and we're currently unable to apply for the micro grants because we are a national organization. However, I know that there is additional funding coming to D.C. given that the president declared D.C. as a, I think, disaster zone as of yesterday. And so I wanted to see if there are other micro grants coming and additional funding available.
Thank you so much for that, Lauren. I think as these different opportunities and resources come online, as soon as they are available, we will begin to post them. So yes, we are definitely going after all kinds of resources, and as soon as they're available, we'll start putting that out in the on the coronavirus.dc.gov website for anyone, whether nonprofit or business, to be able to take advantage of.
Great question from our online watch parties. The question is related to franchisees. Are they eligible, franchise owners, for the micro grant?
Franchises that are independently owned and operated here in D.C. are the ones that are eligible.
All right. Our next question is from Chica Reed in Ward 1. Chica, you are now live.
Hi, Ms. Reed.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thank you. So I, want to let you know how much I appreciate your work and experience with providing support to the small business community. My question goes for businesses who hire their employees as 1099 contract workers and aren't directly employees. Should their employees be able to independently apply for the micro grant for the small businesses, or should they file for unemployment?
So I think that would be the decision would really be up to the particular individual. If they are a contractor or self-employed, they are currently right now you are eligible to apply. But I think that would be up to the discretion of the particular individual.
All right, we're going to go to Daniel Flores. You're live.
Hi, Mr. Flores.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well.
Just if you could repeat the website you mentioned at the beginning of your introduction, please.
Absolutely. coronavirus.dc.gov/recovery-business.
All right, we have another question from David Weiner in Ward 1. David, you are live.
Hi, Mr. Weiner.
Hi, it's David Weiner, actually.
Weiner.
My businesses are in Ward 2, though I live in Ward 1.
Okay.
I operate Eat Well restaurants, Logan Tavern, Commissary, The Pig, and Grillfish. I've been operating restaurants for 23 years in the city. Anyway, I am concerned about security in these closed-up restaurants, enough police presence. I know that there's a lot of things that the police department has to do, but it seems like our closed businesses have a bullseye on them should there be issues or problems. And, it's a great concern, obviously, to be able to go back to a functioning business after this is over. Mm-hmm. So is the city planning on any kind of beefed up local policing rounds or anything that's going on that can give us some assurance as we go to bed at night?
So as you know, that is outside the realm of my purview, but what I'm happy to do is definitely relay that to the appropriate appropriate agency who is able to be able to assist with that. So I'll be happy to relay the messages.
All right, we're going to go to Max Panetta in Ward 1. Max, you are live.
Good afternoon, Max.
Hi, how you doing? This is Max from Georgia, and my question is to you is, if we are a brand new restaurant, we only been there since March of last year, we was planning to do our taxes this year, we got them through June. Are we still eligible to get a grant even though we haven't done our first taxes yet?
You said, when did you start? I'm sorry.
We started in March of last year. So 1 year from last year will be this March will be our first year of being open, and we plan to do our taxes. Are we still eligible to get any grant, even though we haven't done a taxes yet because we're so new?
Yes, you're still eligible. You've been in business for at least a year. So you would just submit the appropriate documents that you can per the application.
All right, we're going to go to Rachel Shank in Ward 2. Rachel, you are now live.
Good afternoon, Rachel.
Hi, thanks so much. I have a couple of businesses that are curious about how the micro grant will be dispersed. Is it going to be check or direct deposit? Thank you.
Actually, that's going to be up to the particular business upon notification of award. They'll be able to get it as a check or an ACH. It's up to them.
Dipa Meta in Ward 3, you are now live.
Good afternoon.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for hosting this discussion. I'm calling on behalf of Bread First in Ward 3.
Yes.
Could you please, I did not see in the application for the micro grant a place where a business could request a certain amount of funding. So I'm wondering if the funding will be given in a fixed increment, and if not, how the amount of funding for a particular business would be determined, what factors would be taken into account.
Actually, there are several factors that will be taken into account, and so the award is up to $25,000. So based on the information that is provided, we'll be able to do an assessment and determine the amount from there.
All right, we're going to go to Noel in Ward 1. Noel, you are live.
Good afternoon, Noel.
Hi, folks. It sounds like my question might have just been asked, but my question is how grant-making decisions will be made. I asked that primarily because we went through the application and there's only a 50-word max box where we can explain how this will impact us, specifically how it will impact our organization in the long term beyond just April's revenue.
Right. And so because this is financial assistance to help businesses, all types of businesses, whether nonprofit or for-profit entities, it's really looking largely at the dollars and cents of the applications, the economic injury, in addition to a variety of other points that we will be looking at and reviewing. So we'll be basing all of our decisions on that. And again, that award is up to $25,000.
All right, we're going to go to Devon Jones in Ward 7. Devon, you are now live.
Hi, Mr. Jones.
Hi, hello. Like I said, my name is Devon Jones. I'm the Economic Development Chair for local NAACP. And my question is two-part. One, can the Bowser administration please share how many applications have been submitted, how many people have known about it? And two, can the Bowser administration share any information about what kinds of businesses are applying? Specifically, we just want to make sure that for businesses, truly like with very, very small businesses that were already struggling to make ends meet, we want to make sure that they have access to these grants as well.
So you asking what types of businesses are applying?
Yes, ma'am. What types of businesses are applying, and then how many of them, if the administration can share that information.
Well, so I can tell you this is that based on the questions and the inquiries that we get as people are trying to apply, they range from, small mom and pop corner stores to large restaurants that have been around over 20 and 30 years. They are reflective of businesses all over the city in all 8 wards.
All right, we're going to take a question from one of our Twitter watch parties from Ashley Levy. When will we know whether or not our business received one of the micro grants?
So the grant closes, the application closes tomorrow at 6 p.m. We have not begun any review until that time. And so we expect to make awards in early April.
And from our Facebook watch party, Carlos asked, will there be another round of DC micro grants, given the short timeline to apply?
So if there are going to be other rounds, as we continue to identify other financial resources, we'll definitely make sure everyone is aware.
And I have another question from Brad Fuller. What is DC doing to ensure that takeout services like Uber and Grubhub are doing everything they can to keep their customers and deliverers safe?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What is DC doing to ensure that takeout services like Uber and Grubhub are doing everything to keep their customers and deliverers safe?
I'm sure our agencies that are working in that area, like DCRA, DOH, are definitely monitoring that on a regular basis to make sure that those customers and those employees are safe as they are going out and delivering food.
Right. And we're going to go to Edwin Washington in Ward 4. Edwin, you are live.
Hi, Mr. Washington.
Yes, hi, thank you very much. And Edwin Washington with the Parks Main Street. We do straddle wards 4 and 5. Question is, any business that has had a challenge getting their certificate of occupancy, which prevents them from a license, will they be able to still figure out a way to still apply?
That business should still be able to apply. We do not require that you have a business license. That's not asked in the application. We're going to give it about, and we'll go through some more questions here for the next 2 or 3 more minutes, and then I'd like to introduce Director Whitfield. No. Okay. All right, Director Whitfield. She is on the line. I'd love for her to give an update and share some news in terms of what's happening with the Small Business Administration. Director Whitfield, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you, Sabangale. Good evening, everybody. So I'll very briefly, because I know that the grants are the hot ticket of the night, and so I will not take too much time. And then I think that Director Morris Hughes is also going to talk a lot about some questions that the business community had about unemployment. I will say that we've been fielding a ton of questions because with the release of the CARES Act, we know that there are other resources that are coming down from the federal government with regard to grants were announced that are also attached to the SBA resources. And the short story that we have to announce today is that the SBA is in the process of standing those resources up. The legislation gives them 15 days to get those resources put together, and our partners at SBA are working as expeditiously as possible to get those resources together. The mayor had encouraged her administration to work expeditiously, and as I think everybody on the phone call knows, that we were the first city in the region to ask for and receive access to the SBA loans. Those resources are there. It's 30-year money at 3.75%. I think that our colleagues at DemPed had the SBA loan funds in their mind as some of the grant requirements were made. For those of you on the line who have constituents that are applying for those loans, for the grants, they will be in good shape to apply for the SBA loan funds. We want to really encourage people to keep the loan funds in mind. It is a resource that is out there. The first year, there's no payment obligation. I'm always holding out hope that there will be some sort of forgiveness built in for some of these things. But again, we know that a lot of the big ideas that were released in the CARES Act are going to be fleshed out in the next 2 weeks, and so that as those things become official, we're going to set up more calls. So right now it's a lot of grand ideas written into legislation, and the SBA is going to put meat onto the bones of those ideas, and then we'll call another, more meetings as we have real, tangible information to share on what those things actually are. In the interim, once you've gotten your grant application in by, midnight tomorrow, 6 o'clock tomorrow?
6 o'clock.
Then please focus your attention to the loan funds, because we think it's a resource. It's not our ideal to add debt onto a distressed business, but we think it is something that we want people to be putting their mind to. And then our PTAC, and we've got lots of other partners. We've got bids and Main Streets that can help people if they have issues with their loan applications.
Thank you, Director Whitfield. I'd like to also invite now Director Unique Morris-Hughes to speak and share any updates that she might have, and then we'll fill the last few questions. Director Morris-Hughes.
Good afternoon or evening, everybody. A few updates from our end. The Department of Employment Services is currently processing what we call an unprecedented number of claims. We every evening post the numbers online of how many claims that we've received total. I know we've hit our 30,000 mark, which is a little more than what we do every year. Because there has been such a significant impact due to COVID-19, we do have significantly, we have longer than normal call volumes. And so if you have employees that are trying to apply for unemployment, I recommend that they go online to dcnetworks.org to apply for unemployment insurance. Additionally, Friday evening, the CARES Act was signed into law by the President. And so because of that, now every agency that is receiving, every federal agency that is receiving additional funding is providing guidance to its subordinate or state agencies to help implement the law. We are in contact with the Department of Labor literally every day, multiple times a day. There will be some guidance issued between today and tomorrow on how 1099s and self-employed are able to access unemployment insurance benefits. And like I said, Department of Labor has said to us that they should have that information out tonight or tomorrow. Until then, I won't have specific information on self-employed and 1099 individuals. We are working around the clock to process unemployment insurance claims, and so I ask that you extend just a little bit of patience and grace as my staff is still physically coming in. And when I tell you we're there day and night, we have been in the office every single day, including weekends, processing and working on claims and calling individuals and emailing individuals who have questions. So without further ado, Simbangwe, I'll turn it back over to you, and I'm happy to answer either questions that Director Whitfield has provided to me or questions that you receive live.
Okay. Thank you so much, Director Whitfield and Director Unique Morris-Hughes. This time we'll open up the lines for additional questions, reminding you again, if you have a question, be sure to press 0 if you're on the call. If you're on Twitter or Facebook Live, please feel free to go ahead and respond and ask a question there.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Toliden in Ward 4. You are live.
Good afternoon.
I want to find out, yes, good evening, everyone. I wanted to know whether or not non-essential businesses will be given priority in grant funding over those who have been allowed to stay open.
If non-essential businesses will get priority over other businesses? Is that what you're asking?
Over those that have been allowed to stay open.
We're definitely taking all businesses in consideration since they're all priority. Based on their applications and their submission, they'll all be looked at very critically in terms of determining award amounts.
All right. Dr. Giovanni Scott in Ward 2, you are now live.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate this forum. My question was in terms of the actual application and what we are considering in making the application. Are we to include the impact on the business as well as our personal finances, or should we just look at the impact of the business loss?
Great question. It's the impact of the business loss.
All right, we're going to go to Vanetta Dumas in Ward 5. You are now live.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Greetings. Thank you so much for having this forum. I do appreciate the opportunity to ask my question. I have a two-point question. So now that we had another person speak about the 1099s, either you or her, I don't remember her name, could answer the question. So for my business, it's a hair salon, and while I don't particularly employ my team, they are 1099s and they work off the commissions, and they don't particularly live in D.C. My question would be, can they apply for the grant or unemployment, and how does that work if they're eligible to apply? That's one question. My second question, as a small business, some of us, and I speak on behalf of a few businesses that I've spoken to, are not fully equipped and prepared to answer all the questions that are on the grant application, but have submitted the application or have started to submit the application. What is the process of being able to support or help a small business that may not have the legal support or the accounting support that maybe some of the other businesses have, but yet they do have their documents, but they're not all fully complete? I don't know if that makes sense.
So, Ms. Dumas, I'll ask.
Mongley, I can
yes.
take the question about the 1099
Sure.
where they live.
Mm-hmm. Go right ahead, Dr.
Okay. Sure. So as soon as we receive federal guidance about what the application process looks like, we'll be able to make that information available. However, when it comes to unemployment insurance, it's based off where you work and not where you live. So if you have 1099s as part of your business structure and your business, the entity itself is located physically in D.C., then the individuals would apply here in the District of Columbia.
And for your second part, Ms. Dumas, for you in more specifically, you are definitely eligible to apply. I'm glad to hear that you are doing that. There are additional worksheets on the website to help you if you need some additional assistance. By all means, feel free to email us at denped.grants@dc.gov. We can certainly have some folks walk you through and try to assist if they can. But it sounds like you have a lot of your documentation. I would stress that you please begin to upload that information so that we can go ahead and get you into the system.
All right, our next question is from Karla Ferris in Ward 4. Karla, you are live.
Good afternoon, Karla.
Hi, I think my answer has mostly been, my question's supposed to have been answered. It was about how 1099 independent contractors will go about applying for unemployment, but it sounds like we'll find out in the next 24 hours.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And our next question is going to be from Adele Moore. Adele, you are now live.
Yes, hello and thank you. My question is regarding DOES. I've had some constituents having issues processing claims, not having access to computers at the library, so trying to use mobile devices or other internet browsers that are not supported, and wanted to know if there were any, I know there's a lot going on, but if there are any plans at any point in the near future to upgrade the website.
Yeah, so right now, as you can imagine, we're laserly focused in trying to serve everybody who needs assistance for unemployment insurance. Modernizing the UI system is something that we have been engaged in now. The good news, well, it's not good news, but every single state is in the same position that we are in, and is seeing and has very similar systems compared to what we do. I just want to remind you and everybody, currently the system is not mobile friendly, and so you could either file a claim over the phone or through a computer. But having a mobile-friendly system in the future is, is something that we support, and we'll be thinking about what the system looks like in the future soon. But right now, we're laserly focused on helping those in need today.
All right, we're going to take a question from one of our Facebook watch parties. Julia Aronson asked, are UI benefits retroactive to the day an individual's employment ended due to COVID-19, or do they begin when the application is filed with DC?
So they would have to provide documentation of when their reduction of hours or separation occurred. And we have to ensure that they're not currently being paid by the employer. Those factors are considered when making a determination regarding pay. That was the first part of your question. And what was the second part again, Simone?
Hold on.
The second part is, do they begin when the application is filed? So.
Oh, did they begin? So if so, I have to unpack that question a little bit. It could be retroactive from the date of separation. So it depends on the date of separation. It also depends if they are still being paid by their employer. Those are two factors that we take into consideration. So yes, it can be retroactive from the date of separation, but we do have to clarify when separation occurred and when your last payment, your last paycheck was received. But it could be retroactive, yes.
All right, we're going to go to Caroline in Ward 3. Caroline, you are now live.
Good afternoon, Caroline.
Hi there. Thank you very much. So I completed the application this week. My question is, if it seems that any information is missing from the application, are we given the opportunity to fix that, or are we just disqualified?
We're working through that process as we speak. So when the application closes, then we'll be able to begin making those kind of decisions and reaching out.
And we're going to go to Marjorie in Ward 4. Marjorie, you are now live.
Hello, this is Marjorie Goldberg, Zenith Gallery. My question is about our sources of income. Art galleries sell artwork all over the world, all over the country, and in the District of Columbia. But wherever it's sold, it's completely dried up because everybody's in the same boat. So, some months all my sales are in D.C., some months they're not. How much is this going to affect my ability to get a grant?
It doesn't, as long as you're you are an art gallery, correct? And is a nonprofit or for-profit? She's not online. No, she's not. You are still eligible regardless of where your income is coming from, if it's coming from the district or from other places or both. So you are still eligible. We'll take 2 more questions, and then we'll begin to close out from there.
All right, we're going to go to Herb Scott in Ward 4. You are now live.
Good afternoon, Mr. Scott.
Hi, yes. I was calling about my business. It was similar to a question that was asked earlier. We just applied for the small business grant. However, we wanted to acknowledge that a number of we don't have employees. Similarly, we have 1099 contractors, and we wanted that to be included or be factored into our expenses. Even though we included our tax information and all that, we didn't. I just kind of wanted to know if that would be a considering factor in us being able to receive a grant, or would we be able to essentially claim losses for the ability for us to hire our 1099 employees.
As long as you have included the appropriate information in your application in terms of your operating expenses, then we should be able to make a determination from there.
All right. Our last question is going to come from one of our Twitter watch parties. The question is, will the additional $600 be included in the next UI disbursements?
Yes, the additional $600 will be included in the UI disbursement. However, the law was just signed into effect on Friday evening, and so we still have to get funding from the feds, and they have to provide guidance. So the $600 payment is not going to happen tomorrow.
Thank you, Director.
Savangla,
yes.
Savangla, so this is Director Russell. Can I just ask just two more questions? I had collected a couple of questions.
Sure.
I know we're short on time, but there's so we had received some questions. If Director Morris-Hughes could help us with what are the benefits to laying off an employee versus keeping them on payroll with no hours?
So, okay, let's unpack this question. And let me first say that my role as a state workforce administrator and UI director is very different than providing strategic business advice. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. And I'm going to answer this through the lens of an employee having access to unemployment insurance benefits. In order for an employee to be eligible for UI, they have to be separated from employment or have a reduction of hours or work due to no fault of their own. One of the, I don't want to say benefits, but one strategy that businesses are using is furloughing their staff, which is they have basically laid them off without pay in some cases. And in those cases, those employees are eligible to file for unemployment insurance because there's a reasonable assurance that they're going to go back to work. There are some businesses that have been so impacted by COVID-19 and they're uncertain when they are going to restore normal operations that they have to lay off their employee with no reasonable assurance of what the future looks like. I think it's dependent upon each business's circumstances. I always like to use the term a reasonable assurance of future work. Is there a reasonable assurance of future work? If yes, then perhaps you want to furlough, which still keep them employed, but reduce their hours with no pay. If there's uncertainty of the future, then perhaps you may want to separate the individual. Does that answer your question, Director Whitfield?
No, I think that's super helpful. I know we had definitely gotten a bunch of a few people. I think we had a few more that we might ask you to just put on the frequently asked questions. I'll ask you one more. Besides the ESSP portal, what login do employers have to view all unemployment claims?
So the employer cannot view all unemployment insurance claims to my knowledge. The ESSP portal will help an employer determine taxes that have been taken out for employees. What I will do, Christy, just to double check that employers cannot see every single individual that's applied for unemployment insurance, is get the answer. I will create an FAQ and we will send this to Simbangale and Dimped team to send back out to the business community.
Yep, happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. With that, thank you so much, Director Whitfield and Dr. Unique Morris Hughes. We appreciate you being on the line. All the business leaders and communities and businesses, owners, entrepreneurs, thank you for joining us today. I will remind you that all of this information, please visit, it's always being updated. Please visit coronavirus.dc.gov/recovery if you are a business, select business. Coronavirus.dc.gov/recovery. In the pull down menu, there's also a link for individuals as well. At this time, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. I think that does conclude our call. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.